There we go. So I do things a little differently as far as most people with Akashic records. I used to just channel and get in, and I still do kind of, but I found that it's much easier on me when I use my cards. It's kind of like the back door, kind of like the back door, I guess. Yeah. That makes it a little easier because channeling sometimes it's hard, and the watchers, the librarian, whatever I don't know what they are called, but sometimes they're just like, yeah, you're not getting in.
Well, and I have like these really deep-seated fears of like being in my body that I don't feel are from this lifetime either.
Okay.
And I've had these memories where I'm like, this is not from this lifetime. So where is this coming from? I didn't even believe in like past lives until about 3 years ago. Mm-hmm. And because I grew up in a really strict religious household. Okay, it wasn't strict, but it was very fundamental. My mom's Mormon.
Okay.
And so my dad was not, which really saved my brain.
Yeah.
Because I always questioned it, but I tried really hard to make my mom happy. And so I didn't believe in past lives. And so I guess I'm just kind of looking for confirmation that I'm on the right path and that these things in my brain are not crazy, that they're actually pictures from past lives that are trying to teach me things and show me places that I need to heal. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm.
So first of all, I'm just going to start off saying this. Depending on how much you are able to get done in this lifetime, it's like you could possibly make a deal where you don't have to do the other few things, and this could be your last one.
I knew that.
So that's why suddenly there's this massive amount of pressure to do everything. A lot of people that made a contract to come here this life right now with all this shit going on in the world and to help guide the newer souls coming in. It's kind of like getting a bonus, if that makes sense. It's like, okay, we need a lot of these souls that are able to do all of these things. And if you come here now and do all this hard bullshit, we'll let you go early. That's kind of how it is. You're not the only one in this boat either. There is a fuck ton of people and I find it really funny that most of them have found me within the last 2 to 3 months. It's really funny.
So funny because I was talking because of you, I know they're my ancestors now. Mm-hmm. And they were like, because I was like, I need to figure out what is going on. Like I called therapists and no therapists were even available until January. And I had resisted getting TikTok for 3 years. Mm-hmm. And I finally downloaded it. And you were one of the first people that came up, which is weird because you're not like everyday TikTok. Yeah. Bullshit, right? And so, but there was something about you where I was like, I have to connect with this person. I love her. And like, that is so funny that it's because you are like the guide. And even though I have only been watching you for a couple of months and we've only done a few things, I have grown more like spiritually and internally in that time than I probably have in the last 5 years, maybe Aww. 10 years. Like
that makes me so happy.
Yeah.
Well, one thing this is easier said than done, and I know this. You're overwhelmed right now with the things you feel like you have to learn, do, accomplish, move forward. Like it's like your to-do list keeps getting bigger and you can't ever mark anything off. It's like as soon as you mark something off, like 6 other things take its place. So don't panic. Don't panic. The things that have to get done, you will get done. There will be some things you can't get done in this lifetime. And that's not it's not a humongous deal. It's not a deal breaker. As long as you keep moving forward, it's like the universe knows that it's not the universe. I don't know what to call it. It knows that you're doing your best and you're trying your hardest, and that's basically all you can do. You also have to learn that in going forward, not everyone you come up against, or come up against is not the right word, but you know what I mean? Like that comes into your path or you come into their path. Not everyone is going to be yours to teach, and not everyone is going to listen. They're not going to soak it all in. You may be just the one that says something to them that puts them on the path to find their teacher. So you can't control who comes in and out of your path. When you really start pulling people into your path that are supposed to cross it. There are some people they're just meant to cross and go right on their way. There's other people that are meant to cross and shift. So, and it is going to be hard, and it is going to be very draining. And the more drained you get, the more inspired you are to move forward. So you just kind of have to learn to go with the flow on that, and not judge yourself too harshly over it. One of the other things is that I'm glad that you have someone that supports you spiritually, emotionally, mentally, you know what I mean? I'm glad that you're married and you have a good marriage. Because now that you firmly put both feet on this path, because I feel like for the longest time you kind of had, it's like, here's the path, you had one foot kind of on it, and then you kind of shoved one foot on it, but you still have the other one over here. And now it's like you're in the process of picking up that foot and putting it fully down on this path. Once you fully have both feet on this path, it's like walls go up around your path. So you're now in like a very straight shot, you know, like a toboggan run in the Olympics where you're in there and there's no stopping, like you're just go. So it does get a little lonely in that you'll have people that come in that are instant best friends that you're supposed to guide and teach and so on. And then just as quickly as they come in, they have to leave because they're not supposed to be on that ride with you the whole way. So I love that you have someone that's behind you, because it is going to be, it is going to be a little hard on you. So, and I do understand this on a deep level, getting attached to people is hard, especially when you get to know them spiritually. That's a deeper connection than normal friendships are. So it's hard to let them then go on their own. So that's the one I needed to pick up next. As far as
yeah, I know I keep getting, I just need to trust the path, because and kind of go with it, like you said, you know, because trust has been really hard for me in my life. And so that's one of the things I'm working on, is trusting that what I am feeling and what I'm being told and all of that isn't just my own ego, you know, because it's like, you know, you asked me in one of my readings to look up my ancestry, my heritage, right? And because of my Mormonism, we do family history really fucking well. And I have lines that are down to 1000 AD that, or 1000 BC. Like they're, every single line, it has royalty. It has like, and they're not like, and like, on my dad's side, was a Norwegian king who was the land clearer, not because he was a killer, but because he made all of these roads and created community for his country. And he would go visit all of the villages. And I'm like, that totally makes sense that that's where I come from, because that's what I feel like, right?
Yeah.
But my grandma Tony's line, who is who I look like, stops at her grandmother. There is nothing past there. And I'm like, and her names on her like records, she changes her the way she spells her last name. She changes where her birthplace was. And because I remember my grandma Tony always telling me her mother's last name was Kozinskaya, her maiden name. None of them have Kozinskaya. It has Kozinka, which is a totally different name. And I'm like, they were running from something. Her husband's name never changes. I'm like, she was running from something. That is why they left Poland, because it literally just stops. And there's nothing about her mother other than one piece of record in America, because they were from Poland, Russia. And I'm like, but that's where I get my magic from. Is my grandma's side. And it was interesting that you said in one of my readings that they were healers in that, but they had to hide it. And I'm like, I wonder if that's what she was running from, because they also, when they came to America, they were a boarding house where other families would come and stay to be able to come here. And so they were like a bridge for other Polish people to come to America. And so I was just like, that is very interesting that this one line, and it's the only line, every other line goes back like literally at least 1000 years, which is insane. But it's the only one that stops. And it's like, you are not supposed to know everything right now.
That's really, yeah, that's, I remember, as you were talking about, I remembered that reading that we did on that. Yeah, here's what's really funny too, is I drew some cards for the next thing before you started talking, and I hadn't told you them yet, but one is acceptance and equality, one is mischief and play, but the one in the middle is the hidden talents card. So I don't think you're quite meant to know, because here's the thing, when I looked at those cards when I was drawing them, I was like, what? Like okay, so normally when I'm reading someone's records, it's like when I'm drawing the cards, it's kind of in my mind, I don't know how to explain it. It's like I see this big filing cabinet and it pulls out to whatever record it is I'm trying to look at with yours, and I pull out the file and I look at it. And sometimes when I pull them out, things are redacted. And when I see something that's redacted, it kind of pisses me off in a way, because I'm like, well, what the fuck's the point of me being able to get in here and look at these if it's redacted? But at the same time, there are things that it's like cheating if I tell you, so it kind of takes away what you have to accomplish in this life. But I'm like, oh, well, you just need to know this or that. That's why this is why a lot of people, when they get into reading Akashic records, they get frustrated, or they say, well, I can't read this. It's not that you can't. It's that you're not allowed to. So like with this right here, the acceptance and equality and the mischief and play, I can read those. Those are the acceptance and equality is you allowing your soul to be equal to what you know it is. There's so much that's programmed into you from the time when you were young, and really up until probably a couple years ago, when you first started dipping that toe over onto that path. It's hard for you you're getting better. Like I can see it doing this, but it's hard for you to put full stock into, this is who I am. This is who I was. It's hard for you to make those equal, that even though you're a completely different person and you're going to be even more different in another year or two, You are still the same soul, and that's just how your path had to be. So there's part of you that still thinks, well, this was actually normal. It's just the way we're programmed to think. It just is what it is. So you have to accept that part of your life wasn't any less or any more than the part now. And then the mischief in play is when we get on this path too hardcore, we tend to get too focused and we forget to relax. We forget to laugh. We forget to have fun.
Oh no. Oh no.
Not a bad thing at all.
You completely froze after you forget to have fun.
I saw. I was like, what I was saying is, and what's funny, it froze right as I started talking about that middle card. This usually happens too. With the middle card, that hidden talents card, when I pull out the file for that, it's blank. It's not redacted, it's blank. And don't take that as a bad thing. It just means that that talent is, you are creating it right now. That's part of the freedom you got when you came here, is that you were able to create a unique talent for yourself. It's almost a hybrid of so many other things. There's not a term for it. So I think some of it too is, I would be willing to bet that some of your ancestors had a lot of these things. That's why there's no record of them. That's why you can't find a lot about them. I don't think, just because there's nothing on that file, I don't think that it's that your talent, what will be your talent. And when you find it, when it hits you that, oh my God, all of this is what I do, that's when it gets written. So it tells me that nobody in your line has exactly what you have. All of these things have combined, and you just have to, define it. So it's a pretty nice freedom to have, instead of being like, oh no, here's all of this. So it's actually a very nice freedom for you to have. Most people would love to have that, where they can kind of write their own unique ability or gift. So that one's going to be interesting for you going forward, because that one of the very bottom cards was a control card, a structure card. So it's going to be hard for you to kind of let go and go with that flow and writing your own gift there, but enjoy it. So, no, that's not the deck I need. For some reason, the phobias popped in my head. So that's what we need to address next. I saw you. So what's funny is the very first card I drew is the Soul Fragments card. So you are absolutely correct in thinking that you've been here for a very long time. To the point that it's frustrating. And like you feel like you are stuck. That's why your soul made the contract it did now. This is not normally something your soul would have done. That's why it's overwhelmed with all the things that need to be done going forward. So you have a ton of fragments out there where your soul has gotten damaged with trauma over this life, every other life. It's it's been a spiritual punching bag. It's taken a lot of hits. And I mean, after a while, pieces start to fly off, you know, little tiny pieces here and there, cracks, whatever, worn places. It is what it is. So you're going to have to find a way to pull those pieces back in and to start rebuilding. So when we go through a soul retrieval and we pull those pieces back in, once you have enough, it's hard to gather every single piece. It just is. It's almost impossible to gather every single piece. But once you have enough, your soul shifts and your soul changes to the point that, whereas now you've kind of stepped outside the matrix a little bit. And as you keep going down this path, you kind of step out more and more and more and more and more. Once you get enough pieces in, it's like your soul shifts from just stepping outside the matrix and going on this path to this whole other path over here. And it becomes this like shining pillar in a way. There are very few people throughout history that have been able to do it. A lot more in the past, probably 50 years than ever. But so many people that are here this time around that are writing their own path, that are here as some of the major guides for other people and so on. They've started doing this with their soul already, and they're pulling others up to that. So they're becoming more and more and more prevalent and guiding other people in doing it. And so it's basically training the newer souls in how to be going forward, where everybody has to have a mentor. Your soul does as well. And it's not just finding someone in particular, like, oh, I really like this person, you know, I like their vibe or whatever. It's that you have to have a mentor for your soul. And it may be several, but you will resonate with the pillars that you come across. And you'll have 3 in particular. So you'll have a gold, a green, and one that's blue, like white blue. And I'm not allowed to tell you who they are because you'll know when you find them. So, but they will be the 3 that will help you bring all the fragments back in to create your pillar. So I can tell you that 2 of them you have already found.
Okay. Okay.
One you found a long time ago. I'm trying to be as sneaky as I can without coming out and saying it.
Now they have to be alive?
Uh-huh. The one you found a while back is still in your life currently in a very close capacity.
I'm trying to think because I don't have a lot of close people. I'll figure it out. It's not family, right?
Yes and no. Chosen family.
Chosen family.
It's a masculine person in your life.
It's not my husband, is it? It is?
Mm-hmm.
I am surprised he's a pillar. I'm just saying. But he's a pillar in a different way.
Yes.
He is my support system. I wouldn't do any of this if it weren't for him. I would have been too afraid.
He is your green.
That totally makes sense.
See, sometimes like I can give you enough hints until you get it. I'm just not allowed to say out loud, but he brought back a lot of soul fragments that were severely damaged from this lifetime.
Oh, yeah, totally. He has been amazing for that. Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, I just leaked tea down my chin. That's always nice.
I know I do that too. I always say, I got a hole in my lip today.
Man, usually I drink out of a straw for that reason. It just, and like when my blood pressure got real high last week, I get hemiplegic migraines, which mimic a stroke. And so it messes up part of my, it's usually this side. And this is, so I'm like, it just irritates me.
Both my mom and grandma had really bad migraines. My grandma would shut herself in a room for 3 or 4 days in the dark. She could not handle, it was horrible.
Yeah.
And so I have a lot of compassion for people who have migraines because they're hard.
Yeah, they're not fun at all. So, but with your other pillars, the gold one you have not met, and you won't meet them for a while, for a couple of years at least. You haven't met that one yet. So, and on that one in particular, you don't have to look for them. So they will find you.
Okay.
So that's the only way I can put that.
So is there anything I can do now to start pulling fragments of my soul back? Because I feel it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really a weird feeling. Like,
it is.
Yeah, I can tell not all of me is here.
Mm-hmm.
It's really, I don't know any other way to put it.
So what I would recommend, there's a couple of things I would recommend. First is to start in some of your meditations and so on, start pulling back your power from people that have taken it from you in this life. That's the first step. And the best way to do that is, and this is, well, this is how I do it, and you tweak it however you want, or scrap it and do something else. You'll get your idea of how to do it when I'm telling you. So what I do is, and I actually do this on a weekly basis, sometimes on a daily basis if it's been that kind of week. But when I meditate, and I don't take very long doing it, just a couple of minutes, I turn on some type of music on YouTube that has some kind of drumming with it, like a shamanic drumming. I usually use a Celtic Norse one because that's my heritage. So, and then I will sit and I will put my hands in front of me, and I envision coming out of, there's a ball, and coming out of that ball are all these tendrils that go everywhere. And mine are kind of a white blue. That's just the color I use for myself. And even if I don't know who they've gone to, I start pulling them back. So, you know, like the water hose reels where you can reel it and it winds, that's kind of how I look at that ball, is I just start reeling it back, and I start pulling all those things back in. Some of them are going to come back very easily because it's just maybe you gave too much energy to someone at work, or, you know, your kid's friend, or, you know what I mean? Like, it's not that they're going to keep it. You just gave too much shit to them. So now you're pulling it back. They don't care. They give it back freely. You're going to have several people that fight you tooth and nail on giving that back. And so the best thing you can do on that, when you're pulling, when you get to the point where most of the little ones have come back and you just have a couple that are out there, and those people are holding on to it. I usually, and I do this physically with my hand because it helped. I need the physical movement of doing it. So with one hand, I'm holding the ball and I'm pulling it back in, and say I've got two out here that they're not wanting to let go of. I will literally take my fingers and make my fingers scissors, and I will get as close to that person as I can, and I will just cut it and let it snap like a rubber band onto them, and I will pull the rest of it back for me. Yeah, they're keeping a little bit of my energy, but I pull as much as I can, so they only are keeping a tiny bit. And what's funny is usually within the next 24 hours, they call or text me. Hey, I haven't thought about you in a long time. How you been? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So can it be people who from your past or whatever, all of a sudden you think about them and you're like, I need to cut this thing with them?
Yeah, exactly. And so when you're pulling all that energy back in, you don't have to think of individual people. Just envision that you've sent all your energy out, and make it your color. Whatever the color you associate with you is. Make it.
I'm a
color.
pinky lavender.
Yeah. And here is what I do recommend as far as color wise go. Make it a metallic or a light or something that's not just a flat color. Does that make sense? So
Yeah.
like with yours, I can totally see it being this beautiful pink with purple at the ends. You know what I mean? Like make it unique to you and make it very shiny and beautiful and metallic-y looking. So it looks more ethereal in your mind and it gives it more power. But
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
just start pulling it back. And it is going to suck the first time that you have somebody that refuses to let go and you have to cut a little bit off. It does suck, but I mean, it replenishes very quickly, especially because now you've pulled the majority of it back and they're not depleting it anymore. Once you start doing this, you find that you'll have a lot more spiritual energy and energy in general, because you no longer have people with a thorn in there that are sucking energy out. Like, I mean, literally like a vampire, like they're just sucking it out of you. So yeah.
So do we have people who, like, souls that we incarnate with who are continual abusers
Yes.
that we have to cut from?
Everybody has a soul tribe. So the best way to explain that is it's like when cars get made and they all have a VIN number, and from that VIN number, someone that knows how to read it can go through and go, oh, okay, this car was made in this state and this facility on this day, or, you know, this month, this day. Like they can pinpoint it down to the batch of cars it was made with. The same thing is true with souls. You have a group that you're created with. Sometimes it's only 5 or 6 people. Sometimes it's hundreds. It just depends. So everybody has souls that they incarnate with every single life, every time around. Now, there's always 1 or 2, depending on how big the group is, that they may be off track a little bit. And so they're a main spirit guide for the other ones. These are people that are like soulmates, they're best friends, they're parents, they're enemies, they're people you have karmic bonds with. There's something that keeps you guys tethered every single life. And for the ones that are enemies, for the ones that are continued abusers, there things like that, you go in that rotation with that soul until you break that.
See, I was told that, and I'm like, because I have had these people who have just come into my life for a little bit who were shits, right? And just about, I don't know, probably about 8 months ago, it was like they came in so you knew who to cut with, so that you would recognize this, because like I didn't continue once, like I had boundaries and I cut it off, right? But it was like, because you need to cut with all of them. And I'm like, that's a lot of people. Okay, it's like 30 or whatever. But so that's it. That's interesting, because that's what I was feeling like. So
yeah. So you have people that mean a lot to you that are always have always been there. You know what I mean? Now, when one soul finally reaches their enlightenment and they move on to the next phase, those other souls do feel that loss. I mean, they feel that loss and they can't explain it. They may incarnate in the next life in their vacation life and literally have everything handed to them they could ever want, but they still feel this loss because one of the souls that they've always been around for thousands of years is gone. So that's why you have a lot of people that they seem to have everything, yet they have this deep sadness inside them and they can't explain why. That's also why, in my opinion, there's a lot of people that have severe depression right now for no reason. Like they did not have a traumatic childhood. They don't have any reason to have this deep-seated depression. It doesn't run in their family. You know what I mean? It's just, they're this anomaly in their line, in their family. It's because they've had too many souls that they've been around this whole time that are now gone. And they feel that loss on a very deep level. And they can't explain it. They can't explain it. So.
Oh.
So. Make a note of something. The wind here is crazy. And so it's not right now, but it's like last night, it was so bad that when it would whip through the breezeway in between the buildings here, my motion sensor would go off. Like it was weird. And it just whipped through again. And my motion sensor went off. And I was like, what? Because it says like someone is outside my door. And so I was like, what? No one's. I'm like, okay, this needs to stop. Like, I'm tired of this already. But my dogs didn't bark this time. So that's good, I guess. But yeah.
Yeah. The wind here has been up to 55 miles an hour.
Yeah. It's been crazy. And I saw, the story this morning about the tornadoes that hit Kentucky last night. I'm like,
oh my gosh.
Yeah. I guess there's like 50 people that were killed last night in this storm. I'm like, oh my God.
Oh, wow.
Like, it's December. It's December.
Yeah.
Right now.
It's not tornado time, people.
Yeah. It's very, very weird. It's very weird. So
the world is getting weird.
Yeah.
Okay, it's always been a little weird, but it's getting weirder.
Yeah. There we go. Okay. Keep having to, I have so many notes. It's not even funny. And I keep making more notes and I'm like, stop. So as far as phobias go, because that's kind of what I drew this for to begin with, there's another card here it's the spiritual evolution card, and it's upside down. The reason that some of these phobias are popping up is to hold you back from where you're supposed to be going. So yes, they are from past lives. They are from other traumas. They are from things that have hit you in this life. But everybody has roadblocks on their path, and these are yours to go over these phobias. And what's funny is, now that I've told you that that's what they are, it's like the hurdle that you thought they were now is sunk down to this little bitty thing you can step over easily. So that's funny, because in talking about that, it's like I drew these cards to, and stepping over those little hurdles, you just have to kind of own it and surrender them. Like, okay, I know this is a thing. I know I'm terribly afraid of this. It is what it is. Because in not fighting it and just stepping over it, it makes things a lot easier going forward on you. So I hope that made sense.
That does make sense. My biggest phobia is, well, the thing that I find difficult is I don't want people to judge me for my body.
Mm-hmm.
And that really is my biggest fear about showing up.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't want people, it's like, I can feel how powerful I am,
Mm-hmm.
which I probably don't even feel all of it. But I think I've had such low self-esteem for so long that when I feel confident, I feel like I'm being arrogant.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't want to come across as arrogant. And I need to, and I feel like I need to just say, I don't give a fuck what anybody thinks. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because I have medicine that people need.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And most people that are in this soul group of guides and stuff this time around, they've had things happen where they've either had severe abuse, they've physical, mental, emotional, sexual, they've had extremely narcissistic people in their life, because if you destroy their self-confidence, it does two things. On the good side of it, if you destroy part of them, that soul works even harder to build itself back up. And so that's their struggle in building back up and getting back up here. They end up higher than where they were. And it gives them this warrior mentality that they can pass on to other people. The other side, however, it gives all of these little splinters in there. So they start to fester. And that even when you feel like you're at your best, say somebody was able to go, okay, close your eyes, and I'm going to tap you on the forehead, and you're going to look exactly how you feel like you need to look, thin, taller, hair, whatever. You're going to be exactly your ideal self. You're still not going to be happy, because there's something in there that's still going to tell you you're still not good enough. You're still not pretty enough. You're still not thin enough. Your hair's not the right color, or your eyes aren't the right color, or your fingers aren't long enough. There's still going to be something in there that festers, because that's how we have to process it. Like, that's how our soul has to be a little damaged for us to continually have to pull that confidence back up. And those people I find that come across as being very arrogant with it are not the actual guides that they need to be. They have been corrupted by the arrogance part of it. So there's a huge difference in self-confidence and arrogance. And I think a lot of people forget that. And they allow themselves to move to the arrogant side, and then they negate every work that they just did to get where they were. It just knocks it right out from under them. And now they have to start over from a different path, a different way of coming out of that phase, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that does make sense.
So, but with you, I don't see any arrogance at all in here. I think this is going to be something that you struggle with for the rest of your path. And a lot of people do when they step on this path, even no matter what happens, no matter how they look, how they feel, whatever, you kind of have to exude that confidence, even if underneath you're like a shaking pile of goo. And you're like, this is not right. Like, but you kind of have to exude that confidence. That's the difference in confidence and arrogance.
Yeah, I know when I tell my husband I'm insecure, he's like, you're one of the most confident people I know. How are you insecure? And I'm like, I'm just good at not showing that I'm insecure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that's kind of how you have to be. Like, I understand. And April asks me all the time, about, I don't know how you do this and this and this. I'm like, because I have to. That's the only way I can put it. I have to. She's like, well, you don't have to. I'm like, but I do. Like, I have to. This is my path. It's what I have to do. And I mean, I wake up and I fight it on a daily basis. And I mean, part of mine is I was married to 2 narcissistic people, and one for 15 years that just destroyed me on every single level. And so
Wow.
I still deal with that. Even when I have a hard time even looking at compliments. Like when people are like, you've helped me so much, even though it makes my soul happy, because then my soul's like, yay, you're on the right path. You're doing what you're supposed to do. Like, you get a cookie. But then that little man back there is like, you're still a piece of shit. The world doesn't need you. You know what I mean? I still fight that back there in the back of my head. And so I can put out the most confident air, and I can hear that I'm helping all these people, but still in the back of my mind, it's not good enough. It's not good enough. So I understand. I really understand. I really understand. And it's something that you'll fight for a while, for the rest of your path.
That's okay. I can fight. Like,
I know you can.
done it my whole life.
But most people aren't going to see that side of you. I mean, and your husband knows you
Yeah.
very, very well, and to hear that you're insecure, I'm sure does shock him. Like, why, I don't understand that, but yeah, I do understand. I understand. I get it. I get it. So a lot of going forward for you is going to be just surrendering and accepting a lot of these things. There's going to be so much that pops up in, I have to say, in your head, but we both know what I mean by that. Not just like, this is just the way I think. It's ideas and thoughts and things that are on your path, that are meant to hit you, that are meant to pop up, to be in your head. You're just going to have to be in that phase of mind that's okay. I got it. Just accept it and keep walking.
Okay.
It's about the only way I can explain that. Because there'll be a lot especially as you keep going, there will be things that you realize in doing inner work, shadow work, soul work, all of that stuff. Oh, the soul fragments. After you pull your energy back, I would recommend finding someone that can help you do a soul retrieval, which is mending those pieces back together and helping you turn into that pillar.
Okay.
So I do them. I do private, but I actually have a humongous one coming up on the 1st of January at like 6 p.m. A group one, just because I don't know why I was like, this needs to be a thing for people going forward, because the last 2 years have been so hard on everybody. It's done a lot of damage, but it's also made people aware that their soul is fragmented and they have to pull it back. So I'm doing a huge group one on the 1st, and I think I have one on the 8th, and then the 1st of February, I think. But so that way people can start the year off a little better, a little more put together. But
yeah. Well, and that's one of those things that you do multiple times, because you can't pull everything back at once, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So, and that's why I will probably schedule one. So my next 3 days, I'm off, but not off. Is I have to go through my schedule for next year and plan things out, because there's a few things that need to be once a month like that. Then some people aren't going to need it every month, but some people are. And so, yeah, it's my goal by the end of next year is to pull as many people back to their pillar as needs to be. So yeah. So yeah.
Because you're good.
Well, I'm going to say this, and I think you'll understand, is I'm running out of time.
I understand.
Yeah, I'm running out of time.
I feel like my husband is too. I keep getting you need to prepare. And I'm like, I don't want to hear that.
Yeah, it sucks. It sucks.
Yeah.
But it is what it is. At least you have the warning.
Yeah.
So some people do not get the warning, or they just completely ignore said warning. They're just like, nope, not listening to that.
That's important, because I cared for my dad and my mom and my previous husband all until and my maternal grandma until they passed. And we had, well, my dad had a heart attack 7 years before he died, but he didn't die because I was not ready for him to die. I would have completely imploded. And I know that's why he didn't die. I know that's why he came back, because he was legally dead for 15 minutes, like no heartbeat, no nothing. And he came back, and he was in a coma for almost a month.
Wow.
And they were like, he's never going to walk. He's never going to talk. He's just going to be a vegetable, because there wasn't hardly any brain activity.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like one day he woke up and he didn't have fine motor skills. There were a couple of things that were different.
Mm-hmm.
But he lived for another 7 years.
That's
and
amazing.
He shouldn't have, but when he did die, I was prepared for it, and I was able to be there.
Mm-hmm.
and all of that. And so I appreciate warnings.
Yeah. No, I do too. I think from the time I was young, I've always had warnings about other people and was able to kind of prepare myself. Now there's been one that blindsided the shit out of me, but it's kind of like when I look back, it's because I glossed over that warning. I didn't want to see it. So I kind of kicked myself, like, man, but I also know that I can't regret not doing things differently, because that's not going to change shit. So, yeah. Well, girly, I got to get off here. Let me stop this so it can be processed.